Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel, Las Vegas Travel and More. My name is Mark Fisher. I want to welcome you all here, and I've got a great show for you today. We've got a great guest that we're going to interview and learn a little bit more about Las Vegas and growing up in Las Vegas. And I just want to thank everybody who's been able to watch my channel and also watch these videos either live when we do the lives or when the replays, because we replay it all week, and I'm getting about 600 or 700 views on the different videos, and I appreciate that. And I want to thank you all for doing that. You can get in the comments. You can write any questions or comments in the chat, and I'll pop them up from time to time, and I will answer your questions. And I just wanted to welcome everybody here, and I'm glad that you're here on this Saturday morning here in Las Vegas. Live, it's 9 o'clock, and it's 12 noon, of course, on the East Coast, and probably 6 o'clock overseas in Europe and all that sort of thing. Anyway, without further ado, I just wanted to mention, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I would really greatly appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button and the like button. I want to introduce my guest today. She is the daughter of my co-host on my other channel, Scientology Peeling the Onion, Janis Gillham Grady. Anyway, I've known her since she was born. I mean, I literally have known her all her life. And I used to babysit her and her brother, John. And she's a delightful young lady. She's her daughter on our other channel before. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest today, Erin Grady. Hi, Erin. How you doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's good to see you here. Yeah, it's
You too.
early in the morning here in Vegas, but I like to do the show early enough so that people can see it overseas and in New York and the East Coast, things like that.
No problem. I get up really early anyway, so this is totally fine.
I'll bet you do. I'll bet you do. Anyway, I want to go ahead and we're going to get started here. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your time here in Las Vegas. And, what's it like living in Las Vegas? I mean, you were basically born and raised here. You've lived most of your life here. I know you've lived where, New York and Los Angeles too, right?
Yeah, and in London and Australia. And I traveled a lot for a while where I kind of lived anywhere I was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was born here in Summerlin and raised in Summerlin. And it's very different now from what it used to be. It was actually kind of boring growing up. There wasn't all that much to do except for maybe movies and bowling, which seems pretty regular for the average town. But now it's amazing. I'm really glad to have my daughter here, actually. They've got so many different places to go to for family activities and water parks. And, well, they did have Wet and Wild when I was a kid, to be fair. They did have Wet and Wild. That was great.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever went there. I remember when it was down on the strip.
Yeah, it was down on the strip.
That was great.
The Sahara Hotel. Yeah, I've been there a couple times, and then since then they've opened up two other ones, one on the east side, and one on the west side, water parks. But Wet and Wild, when it used to be on the strip right by the Sahara Hotel, it was the most popular family location for people to go to in Las Vegas because it was right on the strip, and it was a full-on water park with the slides and the whole bit.
Yeah, it was awesome. And actually my summer camp used to take us there too, and my friends and I would get in the lazy river and we would always find money that fell out of people's pockets, so we were spending our time finding loose change in the river.
That's great. Now, what was it? Now, do you I mean, obviously you grew up, you didn't know other places other than you would travel with your mom and your dad and your brother from time to time. But what was it like growing up, like going to school here in Las Vegas as a kid growing up?
Yeah, for the most part, I mean, it all seemed very normal because it was all I knew. But as I traveled more, I started to realize there were special things. So, there was more than bowling and movies, to be fair. But that was like the average thing. Just we didn't go to the strip very often, but like my aunt would occasionally take us to Circus, the Adventure Dome, it's an indoor theme park. So that was really fun. And we could go see shows on the strip and go to the Vegas buffets. So we did have that influence in our life. It just wasn't like a weekly thing. But, school was school. Some kids were nice, some kids were mean. It was hot outside. We learned what the state told us to learn. You know, it was a public school, so apparently we were learning the same things everybody else.
Yeah, that's right. You went to public school, right? You went to public school here in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I did, and
Yeah,
that's fine. I felt like it was all quite average. I felt like the strangest thing about my childhood was that my family was ex-Scientologists. Actually, that
right.
seemed like the strangest part. But Vegas, the suburbs were suburbs, you know, and yes, a lot of people worked on the strip, but my family didn't. So if the strip wasn't there, our lives wouldn't really change all that much because it wasn't dependent on that industry. So, but I did realize when we would travel and we would say we were from Las Vegas, it always got very strong reactions. So
Oh,
either
what kind of
positive or
reactions would you
negative.
get? What
Well,
would
some
what are
people,
some of the things people would say?
well, some people would be like, "Wow, that's amazing. What casino do you work at?" Like they all just assumed that my family worked in the casino and that Vegas is just the 1 mile stretch of the strip. They didn't realize there was a huge community surrounding it that functioned just like other large cities. And then other people would just say sorry. Like they just thought that was the worst thing ever was to be living in Sin City.
Yeah,
So it was always one of the extremes. And I always felt like regardless of which response we got, nobody really knew what they were talking about because when you live here and you live in the suburbs of Las Vegas, it's not anything to have an extreme reaction to on the positive or the negative side. It's just like a normal life, you know?
yeah, and of course everybody's perception from outside is like, oh, if you go into Hawaii, oh, everybody must live on the beach. It's paradise.
Yeah.
It's just like here in Las Vegas. Oh, you live in Las Vegas, you must be hanging out at the casinos all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in actuality, when you live here, unless you're a professional gambler, you don't go to the casinos at all unless somebody's in town to show them around,
Right.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And at this point, I don't even think people really do that. Like, because it's expanded so much. There's really great restaurants and activities, things to go do that are outside of the strip. So you don't really even have to go there, even when people are visiting now. And I don't think most locals do because it's just so busy. And it's
Yeah,
gotten very
exactly.
expensive down on the strip.
It certainly has. Now, what are some of the your favorite restaurants or places that you like to go, growing up, like you remember places you used to go to as a kid or now or whatever? What are some of the places that you like in Las Vegas?
I don't even know if the places that were open when I was a kid are still open. Like we used to
Uh,
go to Fremont Street quite a bit. There
yeah.
was like a Chinese restaurant down there that we'd go to. I have no idea what the name was, but it was great. And we went to a lot of buffets. I think my mom mentioned on the show when she came on, at the time, they didn't have much money and buffets were just a cheaper way to eat. So I remember that, but that was like local casinos, like the Suncoast.
Yeah, and now
Um,
buffets are almost no since COVID and the pandemic. Then they closed the buffets, and then most of the casinos did not reopen them. And the ones that did,
mm,
you go to the buffet, it's $65, $70 for a dinner buffet. It used to be like
wow.
$12. It's
Yeah.
really expensive if you're going to go to a buffet. So they've kind of like fallen out. I think there's a couple of places that still have inexpensive buffets, but it's not like it used to be with all the hotels having that.
Yeah. And the inexpensive ones don't have very good food,
Right.
whereas before you could actually get good food at them.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, I guess one of my favorite restaurants is on the strip, to be fair, but it's called Catch. They have it in LA, New York. I think there's one in London too, but
Uh-huh.
it's a great restaurant, really, really great. And that's at the Aria Hotel here.
Oh,
And they
that's
have a
great.
really good Mexican restaurant in that hotel too. I just don't know the name. But
That's okay.
I think it's pretty easy to find good good food if you just walk the strip. You're really not going to go to a horrible restaurant on the strip. They can't afford the rent there and be bad. I just don't
Yeah,
think it's going to work out that way.
viewers of my channel, I did a video on my favorite place to eat in Las Vegas, which has been here for years, and I know you've probably been there. Blueberry Hill is my favorite restaurant in Las Vegas. 24
Yeah.
hours a day, a cafe. prices are reasonable. The food is really good, and you get a lot of food for your money. You remember Blueberry Hill at all?
I have not been there since I was a kid, but I was actually friends with the owners. So like the daughter of the
Oh,
owners.
that's right.
So I went and
Yeah,
ate there when I was playing at their house. I think that's
that's
the last
right.
time I went. Yeah.
Well, you should go back, and actually, if you want to go and take Elizabeth, the food there is really great. Everything's made from scratch. All their baking, they have cakes and pies and you name it, they make it all there, which is
Yeah.
amazing because when you see the quality, the professionalism of the displays, I go, "Oh, do you guys have those? Order those somewhere?" They go, "Oh, no, no, we make them all in house." You know what I mean? Which is pretty
Oh,
amazing.
cool.
But that's Blueberry Hill. That's my recommendation for places that people can go to. Okay, now let me ask you this: do you remember? When you became old enough that you could actually go and put like a quarter in a slot machine or anything like that? Do you remember what that was like, or play video poker?
Yeah, because I grew up here and I literally saw homeless people down by the strip where
Hmm.
they become homeless because they gambled all their money away. They came here on a vacation and they just couldn't afford to leave. And hi, sorry, I'm seeing the comments.
That's okay.
They couldn't afford to leave, and to me, it was like not worth the risk. I just felt there was no good reason to ever really get into gambling. And once I was
Mhm.
old enough, I think I put $1 in a slot and I cashed out with 25 cents. And I was like, yep, I was right. I don't need to do this. If I put in more, I will lose more. But actually, about a year ago, I have a friend who he likes to gamble and he invited me to the casino and he was doing well at the craps table and he gave me a percentage for being good luck.
Oh, there
So,
you go.
I'm not totally against gambling. I have benefited from it, but I haven't participated much. I don't think I've put more than maybe a couple dollars into a few slots in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I think, because I've lived here 34 years, and as long as you've been alive, you've been pretty much here, or you lived a few away, but you've come back here, right? To
Mm-hmm.
me, I don't know many people who grew up here who realize, they don't all of a sudden become gamblers. You know what I mean? It's like there probably are exceptions to that rule, but I think most people that live here and grew up here, they realize that's how we pay for our roads and our schools, and that you're not going to win in the long run.
Well, and I think, it's same thing. I can't speak for everybody, but for me, it was the same thing with alcohol and partying.
Hmm.
Like there was such an abundance of it. There was no, like when you tell someone they can't do something and so they want to do it.
Right.
That's not really happening in Vegas. It's like it's a free for all. You could do whatever you want. You could go wild, and it just never looked appealing to me. And so I think it helped me temper any interest in like partying or drinking. I had no interest in doing that until I was 18 because I felt, well, I'm an adult. Now it's appropriate to decide if I want it or not. And actually, I was in California when I tried it all for the first time. And my
Uh-huh.
party phase lasted like 4 months, and then I was over it. And just now I don't drink at all. And I forget alcohol exists all the time. And it's just because I'm
Right.
not interested in it. So I think growing up in Vegas helped me live a little bit of a cleaner lifestyle just because I got to see the extreme of like when it goes wrong, how wrong it goes.
Yeah. So you never really got into like the big nightclubs down on the strip where, it's bottle service and DJs and all that stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, it's got crazy down there.
I went to one club like a year and a half ago. I have a friend who loves to go dancing, and she took me to the club, and it was awful. I'm not a club person. I felt like couldn't move. People start shoving you, or they start hitting on you too much, and it's overwhelming. It's not my scene at all.
It's become a major portion of the income in Las Vegas for the casinos. When we first moved
Mm,
here in the 1990, 1991, casino gambling was the majority of the income for the casinos, the gamblers. There was over
Yeah.
55% of the income. Now it's more like 45% of the income because they make about 30 to 35% of their income from the nightclub scene, from the younger
Yeah.
people buying the bottle
Parties.
service, paying to get in there and party. And that's why every casino has a big nightclub with a DJ that they pay $100,000,
Crazy
$200,000
money.
a night just
Yeah.
to spin records. I mean, it's pretty amazing. I've never been in that since it switched over. I mean, we used to have headline entertainers all the time, and we still do now. They call them residencies and things like that. But it used to be like, oh no, you went to the casino to go see Frank Sinatra or whatever.
Right. Now it's the
Now
DJs.
people go to the clubs. Yeah, they go to see the DJs. I have no idea who they are. Who's Tiesto? I have no idea.
Well, and they have the beach clubs too, because the weather is so nice here. The beach clubs seem to be doing really well.
Like those are the pool
parties. The cabana prices are crazy.
Now, your mother told me a funny story. Your brother went and worked at the Flamingo pool party area one summer as a cabana boy, and he didn't like it, did he?
No, but he made a lot in tips.
I'll bet.
Yeah,
because her brother John is like, he's not only is a good-looking guy, like you're a good-looking girl, but he's built like he's
6'3",
really built,
really fit. Really fit,
and he probably was under drinking age, so he was having to, bring towels and bring all this stuff.
He was like 20.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's just, you can see what everybody just spending their money on alcohol and the flirting and the this and the that, and he didn't want to go back the next year. Your mother said.
Yeah, he didn't, but he was always very shy. So.
Hi, Jan. Good to see you here. That's funny. This is a question somebody asked here from Beyond Jehovah's Witnesses. Question: your mom mentioned that you gave your grandfather Scientology books to the Las Vegas organization. How was that experience like?
Oh man, I forgot about that. That's so funny that you're bringing that up. Yeah, I'm not declared. They shouldn't really know who I am. But when I got there, and they found out that I was bringing all these books, they wanted to know where it came from. And I said, well, my family used to be in, they're not anymore. We want to give you these books. And they were very hesitant to take it, and, went and secretly spoke with other people and then came back and left me waiting for quite a long time. And it was really hard to get a receipt from them, because it was like they didn't want us to have a tax write-off. Even though we donated all these books back to them, they didn't want to give us anything that would be beneficial because we were not in the church. So they weren't very friendly, but they took the books, and it was just a day of my time and whatever. And I don't ever want to go back to that at work.
That's funny. Now, the other thing your mother mentioned too, and I don't think a lot of people realize this, is that there's a huge Mormon community here in Las Vegas. I mean, there's Mormon temples all over Las Vegas. You would think, oh, it's Sin City. Why would they do it? But you grew up with a lot of kids that were Mormons, right? Going to school?
Well, I'm pretty sure the Mormons actually settled here first. And
probably,
Las Vegas transformed into Sin City later. But yeah, most of my school was Mormon. And so when I entered first grade, I guess I was 5, I didn't even know what God was. And I was out at recess, wanted to play with some kids, and they told me that I couldn't play with them until I told them what God I believed in. And I said, who's God? And they were like, well, and they started to explain it. And they were like, so we're Mormon, we believe in this, and we're the true church, and la, la, la. And if you're not, we can't play with you. And I said, well, I don't know. I've never asked that. And they said, okay, well, go home and ask your parents, and you tell us tomorrow, and we'll let you know if we can play with you or not. And so I went home, and my dad made a very unfortunately cruel joke where he told me that we were, to tell them that we were, what's the word? Pagan. He wanted me to tell them that we were pagans, which means basically that we're witches, and they would be terrified of us. And they were. When I said, we're pagans, they ran, literally screaming, running from me. And I never had Mormon friends the rest of my time in school until I graduated.
That is very funny.
It was very sad for me. I was outcast. And Yeah. The Mormons were plentiful.
That's funny. Okay, here's another question. This is from Beyond Jehovah's Witnesses again. Question mark. Are a lot of people from California still moving to Las Vegas? Yes, I would think so. Erin, you might know a little bit, right? Because you're working with your Aunt Terry, who's a real estate agent. She's still a lot of people.
I spend a lot of time with her, yeah. I don't know about how many people are specifically moving, but I have a lot of friends here in Vegas that used to live in California. And even though I was born here, at one point I did live in California and came back. So in some ways, I feel like I'm part of that. But you can also just see it in the businesses. So like there's a lot more coffee shops now, which I love personally. That was something I thought was great about California. You could drive around and find local coffee shops. It's not just all Starbucks in every corner. And so I love seeing that there's small businesses opening. That feels like it's influence from California, lots of new restaurants. And indoor activity places. I think that's all because of the California people, but we also now have traffic, which we didn't used to have. And it starts at the time that California traffic started at. And I'm like, you know what? I think this is a mindset thing. Like they're just coming over all together and they expect traffic at certain times. And now we've got it because our roads are big. It should be fine. And you're driving along and you're like, there's no accident. Like there's nothing to have slowed people down. Everyone just slows down. I don't know what it is, but yeah, we've got really bad traffic now.
Part of it is because there's orange cones one day and then the next day they're gone and they're all over.
They're everywhere.
I literally turn on a street and you're going like, there's cones up and there's nothing going on. I mean, literally there's road work going on everywhere here. But you know, I lived in LA and the traffic was terrible. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we left there. But Vegas is nothing in comparison because you can always find an
No, it's not that bad. Yeah. But over by the airport, I go to the airport every week, at least once. Yeah. And so over there, if you get off a flight later than 3 p.m., you are in traffic. And that just didn't used to be. It used to be like if you get off at 5, you'll find traffic for 30 minutes and that's it. But it's several hours now. So you can definitely see the increase from the big flood of Californians moving. But I don't blame them. I mean, California is not a great place anymore. Yeah.
Well, we have no state income tax. And
it's
relatively speaking, our cost of living is lower than California. This was a question about from all the outsiders moving in, has gas increased? Our gas prices have gone up, but they're not as high as California.
Yeah, but I've been to Kansas quite a bit lately, and the prices are much. Oh my gosh, eggs. Okay, eggs here, the same exact brand, and not to pass any shades to this brand, but Vital Farms. If you buy their eggs here in Las Vegas, it's $12.99 for a carton. If you go buy that same exact carton of eggs in Kansas, it is $5.99.
I know, it's crazy. But I'm surprised you buy any eggs at all. Your mother has her whole egg production business here at your aunt's farm, at your aunt's place, and she produces more eggs than she can eat.
And I wanted to take eggs from her, and then there was like a week where she kept opening eggs that had living chicks in them, and I was like, Mom, I can't do it. I can't accidentally crack an egg that had like eyeballs forming. I can't do it. So I'm terrified of eating her eggs. She says it hasn't happened in a while, but I'm so scared.
That's funny. Anyway, we are getting to, hold on one second here. What happened? Okay. Anyway, we are going to our next segment here, and hold on to your hats. That's my weekly Welcome Misha segment, Misha Playtime. And I included that video of that was the first time that Misha met your daughter, Elizabeth.
Yeah, it's so strange seeing her so little. Both of them so little,
Both of
actually.
them, yeah. Well, what I was impressed with was that Elizabeth was like, oh, she was not afraid at all. You know what I mean? Is like, what's this? It's a doggy. I mean, Elizabeth had to be under 6 months. I mean, she was very young. And
Yeah. She's always loved animals. She's very good with them.
yeah. So somebody asked, Jehovah's Witness asked, Mark, did you get Misha from a breeder? Was she expensive? No, I did not. I actually bought her out of Craigslist, which is like a classified ads here in Las Vegas. During COVID, I decided I wanted to get a dog, and I was going to try and just buy the neighborhood dog that got pregnant and had puppies, but you couldn't find those. So I went to the pet stores, and they were like $4,000 for a puppy. I went, that's crazy. So I looked on Craigslist, and there were a couple of dogs, but they were like 1,200, 1,300, 1,500. Anyway, I was going to buy a dog for about $1,200 from somebody, and then I looked on Craigslist again, and there were pictures of Misha, and it just gone up, and they wanted $600 for her. And I called immediately. I said, "Oh, it's a beautiful dog." I said, well, "What's wrong?" And they go, "I bought this from my girlfriend, but we have a full-grown German Shepherd, and the German Shepherd was not taking to the puppy at all. They were, we were afraid that she was going to attack Misha, the puppy. So I need to sell her. Plus, it was during the shutdown, during the pandemic. We need cash." I said, "Well, I'll meet you right now. $600 is what they wanted." I said, "I'll meet you," and I did. We drove over, paid 600 cash, picked her up, took her to the vet, had her checked out. Everything was fine, and the rest is history. That's how I got her.
Oh, that's good timing during the pandemic to get her.
Yeah. I wanted a dog. I'd had two dogs before, and I waited 4 or 5 years before I decided to get another one. But anyway, so that's Misha, and she's a regular on the show here. Anyway, we are going to go to our next segment here, which is true or false. Okay, and this is where I'm going to ask Erin some questions, and she needs to answer if they're true or false. And we will go with that. Are you all set, Erin?
Sure.
Okay, here we go. True or false? There is nothing else to do in Las Vegas than go to the casinos and nightclubs.
False.
That's right. We kind of talked about that already, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's one of the things I wanted to show, right? You can do this around Las Vegas, right?
Nothing's showing.
Oh, you can't see it?
Mm-mm.
I can see it. It's a picture of you here. Can you see the true or false?
Mm-mm. I only see you and me.
You need to click on the double, down below the screen, because you've got it on just the two people. There should be one with a big square. Yeah, it's a picture of you on a horse.
I can see I can see a thumbnail of me on the horse, but it's not on my screen. But that's all right. If you've got it, that's fine.
No, that's fine. Anyway, yeah, there you are on a horse. Go ahead and tell people about that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because I did forget about that. My aunt has a horse ranch, so I did get to grow up going horseback riding and riding in the desert and over to Floydland Park, and that was really lovely. There's a lot of work, and it's very hot in the summer, so it's not ideal in the summer, but it is something that you can easily do. There's a really large horse community here, and like a surprisingly large horse community here, and they're all they've got a good group between them. They're all friends. Lots of good places to ride.
And then I switched the picture here. You see this one?
Yeah, that was actually taken in Australia when I was living there.
Okay. But you can do yoga here, can't you?
You can. And I've noticed more and more yoga studios popping up, which might, again, be the influence of California.
Yeah, and that's Erin. They're obviously in the picture there. So I just wanted to mention that to everybody. Okay. We'll go to the next question here. True or false? You set a swimming record as part of a relay team.
I did. I did. That was in high school. Yeah, I did a lot of activities as a kid. My mom kept us really busy. I was, oh, wow, you have pictures of me swimming. Oh, my goodness. I haven't seen that in a really long time. Yeah, my family, I remembered hearing stories about how my uncle, my aunt, my grandfather, my mom, everybody was a great swimmer. And so I just kind of assumed it was in my genetics. I enjoyed it. And yeah, so my mom had me in competitive swim when I was a kid, and then by the time I got to high school, I joined when I was a freshman. I got put on the relay team with three other seniors. And
Erin, something happened to your microphone.
oh,
Did
really?
you touch it? Did you touch it?
No,
Okay, now it's back. It's back now. Go ahead.
I think it's the headphone. I'll just take that out. Yeah, what part did you hear? None of it?
No, that your family were swimmers and all that, and so you thought you could swim.
Yeah, so my mom had me in competitive swim, and then when I got to high school, I joined the swim team. And because I'd already spent a few years kind of practicing it all, when I was a freshman, I got put on the relay team with three seniors, and it was all of us together who broke the record for the school.
Well, fun fact, I was a competitive swimmer too. That was my sport from
Really?
age 8 until I was 18 years old. And I swam on my high school swim team. And I also was a relay swimmer. And we won state championship in the state of Virginia. I was a breaststroker. That was my stroke in the relay. And it was
Oh,
always fun
cool.
because that was my specialty. And I swam AAU and all that. I hated the practices. I hated getting up at 5 in the morning when I was a teenager to go to swimming for an hour before school and then go swimming for an hour after school in the wintertime in Washington, D.C. So I hated
Wow.
it, but I actually had skill at it. So
Yeah, I was a freestyler and I was good at butterfly. I mean, I could do all four, but
yeah,
butterfly and freestyle were my best. And that was another thing about Vegas. Like everybody has pools. And I didn't realize until I traveled when I was getting older that wasn't really the case. And I'm not sure if I would have been so into swimming if I was elsewhere. There was plenty of opportunity here.
yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll go to the next question here. True or false? You're a singer and have sung at the White House in Washington, D.C.
Yep, true. True. Yeah.
Tell everybody
I've
about
sang.
that.
Yeah, so I was part of a singing group here in Las Vegas when I was growing up. I started when I was 11 and I did it until I was 18. And we would sing at different locations here in Vegas, down on the Strip. We traveled, we sang at Disneyland, in the New York Veterans Day Parade a few times. We sang at Capitol Hill, at the White House. And I think we did some recording stuff too. It was great.
Yeah, well, can you see the picture here? This is you in the White House, I guess, at a Christmas event, right?
Yeah.
And I zoomed in on you. You're in the back left, and that's you.
Yeah,
Right
I was
there.
tall. I was always in the back because I'm tall.
And then this is also you performing at the White House, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's you in the back.
Yeah, and that gave me a ton of training with singing. And I mean, I was also in dance from the time I was 3 until I was 19. That was when I stopped dancing. But I ended up that's why I moved to California, was I went to a private performing arts school there for acting, singing, and dance.
And then this is one of your performances in high school, or when was this?
That was with the same group. I was in high school, but it was the private group outside of the school. And we rented an auditorium. We did a summer show every summer called Broadway Vignettes. And everybody would get solos or duos. We would do group songs, but everybody got a chance to perform at least one time, if not more. And that group, those were two Mormon girls. And they were the ones who got me to kind of gentle my perspective of the Mormons after my childhood rejection. They were really sweet. And I went to a Mormon church with them for 2 years because we were all so close and we sang together. So I saw them many times a week. And yeah.
That's great. Do you still do any singing at all, even just for fun? Or are you a karaoke fan or anything like that?
I mean, I sing every day to myself and to my child, but I haven't sung publicly in a while. Well, actually, no. On my Instagram, there is a little clip of me singing last Easter. I was just singing a song and shared it on Instagram. So every now and then I'll share with the people.
Do you have a go-to song when you have to sing karaoke or at like a bar or at a family gathering or anything like that?
I wouldn't even know what to sing if it was a karaoke thing. I
You
mostly
should
like
do it
singing.
sometime. It's a lot of fun. It's actually a lot of fun.
It always feels weird to me because, like, when you're actually a good singer who's been trained to perform, when you get into a karaoke situation, it's just a little awkward, like you're almost too good. Like you've been trained. I don't know. It
Oh,
makes
trust
it
me,
not so
if you
fun.
go to a bar that has karaoke, there's people there that are really good, and then you feel stupid because I'm squeaking out "Take It Easy" by the Eagles. You know what I mean? But
Well, I
it's the
haven't
whole
done it
point
at
is
a
to have
bar.
fun. Yeah,
Maybe I'll go do it at a bar like that. I've only done it in like a karaoke business, like where you have a private room with your
yeah, they're cool.
friends.
That you're
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Okay. Next question here. Hold on a second. True or false? You worked as a fashion model after high school.
True. For 8 years,
Tell
I worked as
tell everybody about that.
So that college that I went to, my first semester in, I was eating at a Chipotle down the street from my school, and a agency owner came up to me and asked me if I wanted to model and if I wanted to sign with their agency. And I was very hesitant. I had no interest in it, actually. But my roommate and a few friends, they were really pushing me for a couple of days to do it. And so I thought, it could just be easy money to help while I'm in school. So I did it, and I had a lot of fun on the photo shoots. And by the time I graduated, I'd gotten an injury from dancing, and I couldn't do the path that I'd wanted to do. So I decided to throw myself into modeling more and really take it seriously. And I started negotiating my own contracts, which was unusual for the industry, but it worked out well for me. And I ended up with 11 different agencies internationally. So I could travel around and pretty much find work if I was in another country. And it created a lot of opportunity, and it helped me with building a Instagram following because of the travel and all of the connections I'd had. And yeah, it led to a pretty fun career for quite a while.
What other countries did you go model, or what other countries did you go to doing modeling?
Well, I mean, within the U.S., I did California, North Carolina, New York, Washington, Texas, and then I had someone in Australia. There was a few agencies that I never actually made it out to, so I didn't get to work with them. Like in Africa, South Africa, I had one, and Germany, I had one, but I never worked with them. But I did get to go work in England, went to Italy. I was in the Netherlands, and I visited Denmark, but not for modeling. But I was only able to do it because I was traveling Europe for modeling. So there was quite a lot of travel I did, and it was actually great. For me personally, I always had such an interest in spirituality, especially because of that rejection when I was a kid. Like it created a God wound for me, and so I had a lot of curiosity about that. And getting to travel to so many different cultures and having a lot of free time, and sometimes not being able to speak the language and having no friends, or at least not right away, it gave me a lot of time to read and to explore myself. And so it took me on a whole spiritual journey, which I'm deeply grateful for, which led me to now. And, the business I have now is because of all of that. So it all ended up being really good. And actually, oh my gosh, the picture, I can't tell if everybody else could see it or not. But
no, but I'm going to show it right now. Of course, you had a dream of being a model from a very young age. Your mother showed me this photograph of you here, right?
Yeah. Yep. I think those are my best modeling photos ever, honestly.
Listen, I remember you as a little girl. You were a big Spice Girls fan, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wanted to be a singer. But, I actually had this strange vision come over me when I was 14. I had the opportunity. I was visiting New York, singing in the Veterans Day Parade, and I got to work with Taylor Swift's vocal coach. And there was a producer who wanted to work with me and help make me a star. And they started kind of telling me all the little things I would need to change about myself to become a star. And this vision came over me of like singing on stage, getting off stage, and just like 20 hands, grabbing you and changing you like you're a doll. And I went, oh, I'm going to have no control over my life at all if I do this. And so I decided not to. And it kind of led me away from all of that. And now I'm very grateful for that. I have no desire to be a pop star.
I understand. Well, here's one more question here. True or false? You're a self-taught painter.
True. Yeah. I
Tell
one
everybody
day,
you just took this up during COVID, right? Or whenever, right? Isn't it then?
it was technically after all the lockdowns had been over, and I was just I would set up art stations for my daughter all the time to paint or color or whatever. And one day I just really strongly felt like painting, and I had all this fear in me because when I was a kid I thought I had no artistic talent. And I was like, what if it's bad? And then I thought, you know what? Who cares if it's bad? It's just me. Like, I can paint for myself, and if it's bad, I'll throw it away. And I sat there and I let myself be free, and I let my intuition kind of just move my hands. And I was pleasantly surprised with what happened. And
I'm surprised by
the
precision. I'm surprised by the precision of your duplication, like the green one there on the right. I mean, those lines are so intricate. And I asked you when I first saw these, I said, did you have like a pattern or something you follow? And you just did that yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the thing. It kind of grew because of that first moment where I was like, wow, this wasn't as bad as I thought. And like I said, I've had a very spiritual journey in my life. So for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to surrender to the Holy Spirit, and I'm going to see what can be created through me. And I mean, the paintings were like this close to my face, and I was like really being detailed, but I just was drawing what I could see. It was like it would show up as light, and I would just paint over it, and I would never know the next step until I got to it. I would have no idea what it would expand to, and I'd have no idea what the end results would be. I just had to keep going step by step. And so it felt like a reflection of what we have to do in life. You know, you trust and you do your best, and you pay attention to the details, and you go bit by bit.
Okay. And then I've got another question. This is the last one. Final true or false. Being a mom to Elizabeth is a great joy in your life.
Oh, true. I love that little angel girl. She's so amazing. I love her.
She is just a light. I mean, she's always a delight. She's always fun, and she's always happy. I mean, I'm sure she cries and all that, but whenever she's around me, she's always just really, really wonderful.
Yeah, she can definitely get attitude sometimes, but she's a smart girl. And if you can explain to her the truth, you know, if you just give her details of what's happening, she can rationalize things and compromise. She's just a great human, and I can't wait to see what she's going to be like when she's older.
What is she, 4, 3? How old is she?
She's 4. Yeah, 4.
So has she displayed any of your singing ability or artistic ability or anything like that at this 4-year-old age?
Yeah, she's a lot like me. And she tells me she wants to be just like me. She actually tells me she wants my name. So we're dealing with that right now. But she was just singing in the store yesterday, and it reminded me of me because I used to have adults come up to me. I wouldn't realize I was singing, or I wouldn't realize I was dancing. I was just kind of living. And then they'd comment on that, and I'd go, oh, people can hear me singing. And Elizabeth, hi, good timing. We're talking about you.
Oh, look who's here.
Elizabeth, just yesterday.
Hey, Elizabeth's
I
here.
was telling her, do you know that people can hear you while you're singing in the store?
Hi, Elizabeth.
Mark's saying hi.
Hi. I'm waving to her.
Yeah, you can't hear him. Like, you have to hear him here.
Elizabeth, do you like to sing? Are you a singer? No? Grandma's there too, right?
Class.
Grandma's there too, right?
Yeah, Grandma's back here.
Hi, everyone. There's Janis.
Oh, here, you listen with this one. Okay. Can you hear now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God, that's adorable. Yes, it is. You can hear me now, right, Elizabeth? You can hear me?
Yeah.
Are you going swimming today?
Are you going swimming
today? No.
Dance class.
After dance.
After dance class. Okay. So you want to be a
Hmm.
dancer too.
Do you like
You like
singing and
dancing?
dancing?
Mm-mm.
What do you want to
No.
be?
I'm just that.
Just dance?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. She just wants to dance, no singing. But you were
Well,
singing
I was going to,
yesterday for all the people in the store.
What?
You,
No,
you don't remember that?
I wasn't singing for the people.
Oh, were you singing for you?
I'm singing for you.
Oh, thank you.
Nancy Hart says she looks like you too, Erin.
Thank you. Yeah, I get that a lot. People say she's like a mini me, and actually, pictures of me as a kid, sometimes it's hard to tell which of us it is.
That's right. That's right. Well, I was going to say about her name, Elizabeth. That's a great name because it's versatile because she can be Elizabeth or Liz or Lizzie or Beth or Becky or,
Or
there's so
Ellie, yeah.
many, there's so many different variations of nicknames for Elizabeth. My sister always wanted to be Elizabeth. She was named Betsy, and there was between Betsy and Elizabeth when my mom had my sister, and she was always mad at my mom. Said, "You should have made it Elizabeth." I could have changed the name so many different ways.
I wanted to change my name when I was a kid too. And I liked that it was an E, but I didn't want Erin because it was also a boy's name.
Yeah, I
But I
understand.
got over that.
I understand. Well, we're going to move on to the next our next section here, okay?
Hmm.
And this is just I'll get some of your recommendations too. Or what are you watching? Okay, this is a section that I do each week in terms of what's
Oh,
on
it's
Netflix
cutting
or
out.
whatever that people are watching. And here's the thing: I'm watching. This is new on Netflix, but it's been out before. It was on Stars Network before, but now it's on Netflix. It's called Black Sails, and it's a great series. It's Game of Thrones meets Pirates of the Caribbean. It's really really well done. If you like pirate action, if you like good-looking men and good-looking women and pirates in the Caribbean, you're going to enjoy the show. And it's about 3 or 4 seasons worth of Black Sails, and it's on Netflix now. So if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Erin, I don't know if you watch much TV. Did you ever see this?
I don't watch a ton of TV. No, I haven't seen that, but I really love The Chosen, which is also
Uh-huh.
on Netflix recently, though you can see more seasons of it if you just get their app. But recently, I actually started watching Little House on the Prairie from, I
Oh,
think it was the
really?
70s. Yeah, it's a great show. I'm loving it. They've got such great values in it, and it's interesting stories. And I love seeing that because our society's moved so far away from that style of living, but it's really
It's funny too because
beautiful
the
watching their
girls that
family.
it's funny too because the girls that were in that show they grew up to be actresses, on other famous things and all that. So you get to see them as young girls. But yeah, no, I watched the other thing we talked about. I don't know if you saw Shogun just finished up, and I finished that, and I talked about that last week. But that's a fantastic show. Um,
No, I
I'm
haven't
a
seen
big
that.
Netflix fan. I don't really go to the movies anymore. Oh, I was going to mention to all of you viewers out there, if you have Netflix, there's a new Jerry Seinfeld movie that just came out yesterday. And if you're a child of the 60s, like I was, the 1960s, it's called Unfrosted. And it's basically a comedy story about the creation of the Pop Tart, okay, in the
Oh,
1960s. And that's the basis of the movie, right? And it's very funny, but it's kind of like Anchorman with Will Ferrell, where they make fun of all the different stuff that was going on in the 60s at the time. So they've got all
yeah.
these toys and cereal wars and Cocoa Puffs and Tony the Tiger and this and that. And it is really funny if you're into it. It's for old fogies like me. Watch Unfrosted. It's on Netflix. So I just wanted to mention that here.
Okay,
And
cool.
here I
I'll check it
see
out.
Nancy Hart says loved Little House on the Prairie books too back in the day. Did you ever read the books?
No, no, I never gave it much thought. And I've been in Kansas a lot lately. So obviously that's where they started their journey in that series. So and I've learned a lot about the settlers by going there. Weirdly, I didn't learn much of that history in school. It's me having to travel there to learn just how much really was going on. And they've got amazing antiques all over the place there and really cool museums. And I've just been so into it that when I saw Little House on the Prairie was available to watch, I was like, oh, I'm loving this
I like
topic
that.
lately. So let me just get into that. Yeah.
That's great. All right, next section here. We're moving on. What are you reading? Okay, this is where I talk about books that I've recently read. And I talked last week about the book on the left there called Scattershot. And it's the biography of Bernie Taupin, who is the lyricist for Elton John. And it was a fantastic book. I recommended it highly last week. Well, Mary Kay London, who's a member and also a viewer of our channel, she wrote to me and she said, oh, you should also read Elton John's biography. It's called Me, from a couple of years ago. And in actual fact, Mary Kay, I have actually read that book as well, and I do highly recommend it. So anybody who's into the 70s and 80s and Elton John and Bernie Taupin, Elton John wrote the music, Bernie Taupin wrote the lyrics to Tiny Dancer, Your Song, all of the Elton John hits, everything Bernie Taupin wrote. But the great thing about what I mentioned about his book is that he moved to America in 1970. He always wanted to be a cowboy. He ended up becoming an artist, and then he raised what do you call them, cutter horses. He got into horse, you know, he was a cutting rider and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he did all that, and it's just very interesting life. And of course, Elton John's book is more about his life as a rock superstar. And so you get a lot of the down and dirty and all that, but it's from Elton's point of view. So anyway, I highly recommend both books, Scattershot by Bernie Taupin and Me by Elton John. Do you read very much, Erin?
Not a ton, but you know, when I'm on planes, I do. So I actually reread recently a book that I read when I was 14. Well, it took me between the ages 14 and 18 to read it because it was a bit advanced for my consciousness at that time. But I was really glad to reread it. It's called The Disappearance of the Universe by Gary Renard, and it's pretty mind-blowing. I highly recommend it.
Do you like to read your spiritual? I know that. Do you have a preference as the type of books that you read? Do you read a lot of self-help spiritual books, or do you like novels, or do you like biographies? I mean, what type of books do you like to read when you do?
Well, it changed. When I was a kid, I read like crazy. I mean, I would go check out 8 to 10 books a week at the library and just read them all. You couldn't get me to put them down. And that was all, you know, fiction. It was just stories. But as I got older and I started to learn more and get into other things, it became more about spirituality and self-help. And I wouldn't even call it self-help. It was mostly spirituality. And now I've found the best answer to all of your questions is to just go within to the quiet place and let the truth arise there, rather than going and searching for it outside of you in a book. So I don't read a ton, but like I said, The Disappearance of the Universe, that was a great refresher to have because there are really profound truths in it that helped shift my thinking enough that when I did go internally, there was peace found faster. I'll just say that.
Okay, great. Well, we're now going to move on to Healed by Oracle, which is your business, right? Do you want to talk a little bit?
Yeah.
Tell people about your business and your products. I've got photos that I can show here as well regarding it.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I was saying, how I learned a lot from modeling, but I'm glad to be in what I am now. This company was born because of my spirituality, but also because of how much I learned from modeling. I mean, I got to be in the room while people were creating products, while they were running their businesses. I got to see the ins and outs of so many things that most people don't see happening with companies. And so it actually trained me really well for entrepreneurship. And a friend in California many years ago asked me if I could take my knowledge of nutrition from my family's background, plus what I know of beauty products from my years of being a model and trying so many things, and my spirituality and my strong intuition, and see if I could come up with a good recipe for a CBD healing salve. And I did. And I prayed about it and the recipe came to me. I made one slight adjustment after the initial batch, and that was it. That was the formula. And I had pretty low expectations for it, honestly. I thought it would just be for like sore muscles when you get a massage. But more and more people in my group of family and friends started trying it and started coming back to me with information about how it was helping them in so many ways that I never would have even fathomed. And that's where I feel like the prayer part comes in, right? Because it was born out of love in my heart, like my love for people, my desire for people to be well and to be happy and to thrive and live together harmoniously. And a big thing that causes upset for people in their life is the daily pains that they have. And, pain can make you grumpy. Sometimes you aren't nice to people just because you're in pain, not because you don't want to be nice. So when I started hearing how it was changing people's lives in ways that I couldn't imagine, I just felt like I needed to make it an actual company. I couldn't just take it away from the world when I knew its potential. And so, yeah, I turned it into a real company, and I've been building up the sales and the brand as much as I can. And I'm going to start having it manufactured soon so that I won't have to make it by hand and it can reach more people.
You do it. You make it all yourself, right? You gave me some of it. You gave me just, I'll give an endorsement. I had, my wrist was bothering me right here about a year or so ago. And then, so you gave me a little bit of it and I would rub it on that part of the wrist, and literally whatever inflammation or whatever, it went away within a few days of just using it, and it has not come back. And so I highly recommend it. It's great for your joints or for any kind of pain or anything like that. And it's got emu oil too, right?
Yeah, and I've gotten reports from many people about it being great for nerves, so inflamed nerves, which I'm not an expert in that field, so I'm not going to claim to be. But what has been shared with me by a nurse was that that's something that can be very hard to handle. So there is a lot of excitement around the fact that this product is actually soothing inflamed nerves.
Yeah, so if you're interested in her CBD salve, or go to that website, www.healedbyoracle.com, and you can order it. That's Misha opening the door. You can order it there, and she'll ship it out to you. And I can highly recommend it. If you've got any joint aches or pains or whatever, give it a try. I think you're going to like it. But it's www.healedbyoracle, and that is Erin's business. Okay, I'm going to go to questions. We've got a few questions for people to answer, for you to answer here in the chat, and I appreciate that. If you've got any other questions, please write question and just go in the chat and write it, and I'll pop it up here, and we'll go ahead and we'll get some of these things answered here. I answered that one here. This one here, this is from Beyond Jehovah's Witnesses again. Erin, have you ever been to Big Blue in Los Angeles? You know what Big Blue is?
Yeah, I've been next to it many, many, many times. I have not been in it, but I did go into Celebrity Center, which happens to only exist because of my grandmother. Right. And that's why I wanted to go into it. I was in college still at the time, and I went with my roommate and pretended I knew nothing about the church. And I took their little test, and so did my friend. We both got separated and put into different rooms to kind of be cornered into paying for something. And it was interesting. The woman who got my test back, she didn't really know how to respond. I'd already been reading Disappearance of the Universe at that point. So I started learning about forgiveness and, the peace of God. And so I felt quite content within myself and quite optimistic and joyful in general. And she was expecting much lower scores on my test. And it was almost like she didn't know what to say to me. And her boss came in and was trying to pressure me into buying some books. And I told her I didn't have any money because I was in school. And she was trying to get me to call my mom to pay for the books. And I was like, no, I'm not calling my mom to pay for Scientology books. And she would not let me leave. It took like an hour of constantly saying no to them before they would let me leave. And my friend almost got sucked in, and luckily I got her out of there, and we never went back. But that was the extent of that was the extent of it.
Okay, we got another question here. This is from Inquad Cadiz. Hi, I don't know Las Vegas, so are there many or few parks for dogs and for children?
Many, I would say. Yeah. Many parks, yeah. And they're really nice parks. They're always clean. The only thing is not all of the kids' sections have appropriate covering. So, the summer, it does get a bit hot. But
There's
But
a
a
lot of
lot of
parks
them
though
do have covers.
that have like the equipment, you
Yeah.
know, the swings and things like that, and there'll be a big canopy over
A
the top,
shade, yeah.
a shade.
Yeah, and
over
depending on where the sun is, part of the park still might be getting sun.
it. Mhm.
So they're not
And then
the
also they
best
have a
built, but they
cushiony.
do have put it there.
They
Yeah,
also
yeah.
have cushiony, like it's not like you're on top of dirt or whatever. There's like almost like a cushiony pad that all these
Yeah,
different
it's still solid
playground
ground,
stuff
but
is.
it does have a
Yeah.
bit of a bounce. And they have a lot of splash pads. So where
Oh
you know
yeah.
you can set the water off and it's flying, and the kids love going through that in the summer. So yeah, tons and tons and tons of parks.
And lots of dog parks, as I can speak. I mean, where they can run. They're fenced in. You've got to be mindful of your dog, and you know other dogs will be in there too.
Mm-hmm.
But there's lots of places where they can go and run. So anyway, thank you for that question there. And this question here again from Beyond Jehovah's Witness question:
Mm-hmm.
Where can you ride horses in Las Vegas?
Well, I think for the most part it's private. So it's you would have to know people with ranches who can let you ride their horse. But I think if you look online, there's probably people who do lessons. And the park, Floydland Park, used to have horseback riding. I know they had stables. I don't think they do it anymore. But I also saw that there's on the outskirts of Vegas, there's a new dude ranch where they do kind of like a glamping setup, and you can go trail riding there. So they do have horseback riding at that glamping park. I don't know the name of it, but you can definitely Google horseback riding in Las Vegas, and you'll find quite a few options.
Up by Red Rock Canyon, there's a horse place where you can go on trail rides and stuff. But the other thing too, which is what your Aunt Terry does, I mean, she lives right next to BLM land, which is the Bureau of Land Management. Any government-owned land, it's just wide open desert. You can ride on there anytime you want.
Yeah.
Right? And that's really what people do. They desert ride, and they ride up into the mountains because they're all government-owned, and it's not private property. You can ride anywhere you want.
Right, and that's how we would get to Floydland Park. So you can ride in the park. You can't go in the water, but you can ride through the park. And so we would go through the desert, the BLM land in the desert. I think it's like a mile or two. And then you make it to the park, and there's a whole section for horses specifically in that park.
Yep. Thanks for that question. Here's the next question. It's from Jen. Question: Erin, do you have a favorite Bible verse?
I wouldn't know what verse it is, but something that I think of a lot is when Jesus was saying, "Behold, the kingdom is at hand." And I love that because I think it gets confused a lot. When I think of it, you know, your hand is attached to you, right? It's right here. It's right now. It's not going away. It's right in front of your face. And I like that verse because it reminds me God is with us everywhere all the time. And it's a matter of perspective and awareness, right? Like we create heaven and hell within our own mind. And you see it in people who allow fearful thoughts to take over them. They've created hell, even though reality is neutral. So I like to think of that because it reminds me that I can shift my perspective in any moment and reconnect to God, and miracles and heaven can be available for me right in that moment once I shift my perspective.
Great. Thanks very much for that. Nancy Hart says, I'll be sending in my order. Thank you. So you're going to be getting the order. Yeah.
Great. I love that.
Thank you very much for that.
And, you know, I just want to say, because, you know, with it being handmade, I pray over every batch, and I pray when I send out the orders, and I can do that because it's just me for now. But I want everyone to know that even though I'm going to move it into manufacturing, there will still be prayer. There will still be love put into every single jar. And that's very important to me. And any brand that I do moving forward is always going to be made with love.
That's great. Okay, and then we've got another question here. This is from Chekuli Calkins. Question: what would you recommend a family with a 3-year-old do in Vegas to take up a few hours?
Oh, definitely. Well, there's a few places. I'd say Springs Preserve is a really great one. They have a lot of stuff for kids there, and an interactive museum there. So, and they have the Butterfly Garden. You can go in, and it's educational too. There's the Children's Museum too, which is also all interactive and very fun.
Yeah, that's downtown, the
There's
Lead Children's Museum. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, actually. And there is also the Wetlands Park. They do events down there, so it's great to walk around and be by the river. And last time I went there, actually, there was a guy with his telescope set up so that we could see an owl nest that was perched up there, and it was very cool. The kids loved it, and they loved playing in the river. And well, the creek, but they weren't in the main river. But they also do events in the center there, where like watercolor painting, and they have, again, an interactive museum. So there's quite a few things for kids, and I always think educational stuff being included is best. So Springs Preserve, Wetlands Park, or the Leeds Children's Museum are all really good.
That's great recommendations. Well, we've reached the end of that here. I wanted to thank everybody for watching. And I want to thank Erin for being here as my guest. Please subscribe to the channel. If you like this kind of content, I interview lots of different people. It's about Las Vegas, travel, and more. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It really helps me out, and I really greatly appreciate it. If you've got any questions or comments about anything we've talked about, go down below, write down questions, comments. I respond to them quickly at all times. And if you want to donate to the channel, you can buy me a coffee. There's a link right down there. You can buy me 1, 2, 10, 15, how many ever coffees you want. It's just a way of donating to the channel, and the money I get just goes back into the channel. So I really appreciate any support, anything like that. I also wanted to mention again, if you're interested in her CBD salve, go to www.healedbyoracle.com, and you can place your order there. And Erin hand makes it, puts a prayer on it, and it will come to you in the mail. So if you're interested in that, you can do that. And the last thing I wanted to mention, if you're interested in Koala Calm, which is Janis's mother's product from Outback Natural, there's a link right down below in our store. You just click on it. It's $19.99. It's a magnesium drink. It helps with anxiety and stress and helps you sleep. So if you're interested in that, you can order that there. That's the show. Erin, is there anything else you would like to say before we end off?
Just thank you for having me on. I've enjoyed chatting with you.
No, it's been fun. I knew it would be fun, and you're a very interesting person, and you're leading a great life. You've got a great daughter and a great family, and I knew it would be a good show. So anyway, I want to thank you for coming on.
And I'll see you tomorrow, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to be over
good.
at your mother's house anyway. For everybody out there, until next time, bye-bye. We'll see you. Bye.